Hello and welcome to a new video from Byte Analytics. This is the channel's very first video on Microsoft Fabric, and it's also part one of a series of videos covering the different table types which are available in Microsoft Fabric, just some of the different table types. And in this particular video, we'll be covering managed tables. These are Fabric managed tables. So if someone was to ask you, where's that table in Microsoft Fabric, that question has different answers depending on the scenario and how the table and the data has been generated. And in each case, the answers are not necessarily interchangeable. A table in your lakehouse, a table in your warehouse, and a table in your semantic model can all point to completely different things under the hood. And if you don't fully understand this, you could potentially be wasting hours debugging or looking for something which was never really lost or broken in the first place. So today I'm going to walk you through building each one of the different table types listed here. This is not an exhaustive list by any means, but only the common types of tables which you will encounter whilst using Microsoft Fabric. So we're going to be looking at managed tables, external tables, shortcut tables, warehouse tables, and the new MLVs, as in materialized lake views. So in today's session, here's what we're going to be building. Managed tables, external tables, and shortcut tables all live inside the lakehouse. And you may know from Fabric, we have different options for storage and compute and processing engines. The lakehouse and the warehouse are just some of those options available. And next up, we have warehouse tables, which looks similar but works slightly differently under the hood. And these are the traditional data warehouse tables, which we are fully familiar with and love and know from historic times. And finally, we have lakehouse views. MLVs or materialized lake views are still quite a recent and new option. There may well be people using them out there, but between all the options, this is one of the more recent ones. So before jumping into the demo, I want to take you on a trip down memory lane just on the evolution of cloud computing, and hopefully this will give you an understanding of how things have evolved over time and why we are where we are today, given the analytical solutions and the various options we get in Microsoft Fabric. So keep with me and I'll walk you through this journey very quickly. So if you can cast your mind back once upon a time in history, if you ever wanted to kick off a IT project, as it was called back then, you would most likely find yourself sitting in a meeting with senior leadership asking for the provision of some new hardware which is going to serve as the backbone for your IT project. The senior leadership would then sign off the IT hardware and the associated software licenses, and they will complete a capex, and that would get raised. And finally, you would be given a server, computer server, and it would take weeks, if not months, for IT to patch that and configure it, make it suitable for you to be able to build your solution on. Once available, it would take you weeks, if not months, to then build out your solution. And that was great. That was the only route that was available back then. But very quickly, that server would then run out of compute power and certainly storage space. And you will find yourself once again sitting in a meeting room asking for an upgrade to that server so you can start rolling out things again, because by now your audiences have got familiar with the solution. They want more of the solution. Only the server now cannot cope with the load. This led to the emergence of cloud computing, and essentially a server which was sitting in a dark room on premise somewhere in a corner tucked away, being kept cooled by the air conditioning. All of a sudden, all of that compute power and storage was now shifted up into the cloud by various cloud vendors. And that meant you can scale up your compute and have limitless storage without having to worry about re-provisioning any hardware or servers like you did in the past. And that was great. And that opened the door up to greater storage capabilities in the form of data lakes. So data lakes were these limitless storage solutions where everyone could place the data, not have to worry about space running out, And that was great for the period of time that we were going through at that point. But that solution also had its challenges. The data lakes very quickly turned into what were classed as data swamps. And the reason for that is everyone had flexible access to these data lakes. Everyone was creating a copy of the data and then a copy of the data. And ultimately, there were pockets of data distributed and scattered throughout the data lakes with no real ownership or accountability of who's responsible for that data. And it led to an estate which was very messy and difficult to manage. There was always a concern whether deleting something in a bid to clean up would cause problems for any teams. This is one of the fundamental reasons why the discipline of data governance emerged, because there was a greater need to manage your data better rather than have the data scattered out throughout the data lakes, classed then as data swamps. In parallel to this challenge, we saw a turn in the way data was being produced and used. Not only were we seeing greater volumes of data, but also different types of data being consumed and generated as the evolution took place. So we were no longer working with just Excel or CSV files and simply not with SQL Server. We actually crossed the spectrum of structured data, semi-structured data, and also non-structured data. So it became necessary for modern platforms to be able to process the various types of data which was now being generated around the world. And this is exactly why analytical platforms like Microsoft Fabric have now taken the spot to try and answer and deliver on all of these challenges that we face. Microsoft Fabric not only provides capability for different workloads spanning across data factory, data engineering, data warehousing, data science, and real-time stream analytics, but perhaps the single most important factor is the backbone, which is the unified data foundation with OneLake. What that means is you have essentially a OneDrive which spans across your organization and allows you to store your data. The unified OneLake storage supports the Delta Parquet format, which acts as a layer for ACID compliance. And essentially, in simple terms, all it means is you have greater control over your data in terms of being able to roll back and only have data committed which has completed certain processing steps, and your data is not left in limbo. Essentially, it means just like a database has a transaction log, you have full auditability of your data storage layer, and it's no longer just a dumping ground for your data. Now that we've recapped on this basic understanding, it's time now to jump into our demo within Microsoft Fabric to try and create these different types of tables. So here we are in Microsoft Fabric, and I already have a workspace called Byte Analytics Demo. But for the purpose of this video and so that everything becomes clearer, let's start by creating a completely new workspace so that we can step through this together. So let's call this workspace Table Types Demo. We're going to assign this to the trial capacity. Here we are. So now we are inside our new workspace. And we can begin now by creating our new lakehouse inside this new workspace. So let's come over to New Item. Let's click on Lakehouse. Let's give it a name. And it's already pointing to the right location. Notice for the moment I have Lakehouse schemas enabled. We're going to stick to that option. Let's go ahead and click on Create. And here we are. We have now our new lakehouse available. So just for a second, let me explain that naming convention is usually very helpful. Naming your objects in a manner which identifies your object can be very useful for other users. So in this case, we have a lakehouse. There's no real fixed pattern, but I've started by calling this LH, so it denotes it's a lakehouse. Obviously, if it was a warehouse, maybe you can do something like a DW, or in the case of a pipeline, often I've seen PL. So every type of Fabric object can be given a specific name, and naming convention can be very useful for other users as well. So let's go back to our workspace now and also create a notebook, which is going to help us bring data into this lakehouse. So let's click on New Item and let's click on Notebook. Here we are in the notebook. As it stands, this notebook is not attached to any particular lakehouse, so we need to do that ourselves. So let's go ahead and click on Add Items, and we're going to click on From One Lake Catalog, and we should be able to see our lake house listed amongst all the lake houses which are available. And we can see right at the top here we have LH table type, so let's select that and click on Add. And now this notebook is associated or attached to this particular lakehouse, meaning any commands or any code which executes here, any command or code which is executed here will make changes within this selected lakehouse. Now, I already have a notebook with some code available which I've used previously, so let me just duplicate this window here and we'll go and copy the code. So let me go over to my previous notebook and I'm going to copy the code which is in here for the moment, and we'll do that so that I can briefly explain to you what the code is going to do. So let's go ahead and click on a new cell and paste that in. So this particular video is not about how to write PySpark code, but to give you an idea of what it's going to do, I'll walk you through that very quickly. I've obtained this code through AI and I've just asked it to generate something for me. And the purpose of the code is to generate some synthetic data. So I'm not going to be ingesting any data. The code itself is going to generate the data for me. As you can see here, I have some names, some made up names, some last names, and some countries as well. And if I go further down, I can see some categories. So this is creating my products data. And then further down, we also create some sales data, some arbitrary sales data. The key thing to note here is that we are actually creating what's called a data frame in each case. And a data frame is essentially a container which you can use to store your data, manipulate, transform, save, and read all kinds of operations on your data. So notice towards the bottom of the code, we have these three lines. I want to draw your attention to these. We have the customer's data frame, the product's data frame, and the sales data frame. All three of these hold their respective data from the processing done in the code above. And we can see that we are using the mode overwrite to overwrite the table each time. This is essentially where the table is created. And we can see that the format is Delta format. And finally, this command here, save as table, and we're giving the table a name here of customer, product, and sales order. So this is where we are creating three tables. Now, something that's happening here behind the scenes is that Fabric is taking this synthetic data, which it's generating in code, and it's actually converting it to Delta Parquet format just by using this code here. Furthermore, it's going ahead and saving those Delta Parquet files in the relevant locations, which are unknown to me at this point. I know they're going behind the scenes, but that's something Fabric takes care of, and I don't need to worry about that. Lastly, it's registering the table. So it's creating a physical table, which is going to end up inside the tables folder and inside the DBO schema because we're not specifying a particular schema. So once it's done that, it should give me a message saying it's done. So let's go ahead and execute this code now. Okay, so after 33 seconds, the code has now completed and it's telling me it's done 500 customer records, 12 products, and 3,000 sales rows of synthetic data. So presumably it's created these tables, customer, product, and sales order. So let's go ahead and refresh the tables folder here in the lakehouse. And let's expand DBO, and rightfully so, you can see the customer, product, and sales order managed tables. So this is how we can actually create a managed table, and we don't specify necessarily where the files are going to be stored. That's something Fabric decides to do itself. So how do I actually know for sure that this is a managed table? Well, let's head over to the Lakehouse view itself, And within the Lakehouse view, I should also see the managed tables. So let's close this out. Let's refresh this one more time. And alongside the customer, product, and sales order tables, if I click on the three dots and I go to the properties, it should open up a pane on the right hand side. And if I just zoom in for you, you can see that the type is managed and the format is Delta, as you can see there. And the same is true for the product and the sales order table. Let me just quickly show you that. There you go. The same is true for the product table as well. So let's close that out now. And at this point, you can see the tables in the tables folder, but in the file section, there are no files. And you're probably wondering, where did Fabric actually save the files? So there is a way we can view that for certainty. So let's go ahead and open up our OneLake File Explorer. And within the OneLake File Explorer, I can see the objects which I have in my workspace. So I can see the table types demo workspace. And if I click in that, I can see my table types lakehouse. So if I navigate deeper in there, I can see files, functions, table maintenance, and tables. So let's go ahead and click inside of tables. I see the DBO schema. Notice how it's following this structure here. And as we expected, inside the DBO folder, we can see the customer, product, and sales order folders, which are essentially the tables. And if I go inside each one of these folders, now I can see the Delta Parquet files, which Fabric has automatically converted through the code and saved down without me necessarily having to worry about where to save these. All I've done is run the code and it's generated the table for me. So one of the key takeaways for a managed table is that this type of table is fully self-contained with the metadata and the underlying data, meaning if I was to delete the table, the associated Delta Parquet files will also be deleted. So let's try and prove that here. Let's just go over to Fabric and let's delete our customer table. So if I click on three dots, choose delete and confirm that. So now the table has been deleted from the DBO schema inside the Lakehouse. And now let's go back over to the OneLake File Explorer. So what I need to do in this instance is actually exit from the OneLake File Explorer. So let me go into my system tray and I can see the OneLake File Explorer is active. So let's exit that and let's close this. Now let's open that up one more time. Okay, now let's go back into table types, Lakehouse, tables, DBO, and as you can see now, we no longer have the customers folder which contain the Delta Parquet files, and that's now because it's mirroring the structure of the Lakehouse here. So key thing to remember here is if you delete a managed table, the associated Delta Parquet files will also be deleted. So with that, let's wrap up on the managed table part by summarizing when you would actually use this. So you should always default to the managed tables unless you have a specific reason not to. It's the lowest friction option available in Fabric, and Fabric handles the cleanup of the data for you. You should use them once you're creating and owning the data. Key thing there when you're owning the data, not simply referencing anyone else's data. They are the perfect fit if you want to build, transform, and fully control the lifecycle of your data. And when you don't need the files to survive, if the table was ever deleted, then managed tables are your best option. Let me leave you with a summary of what we've covered so far and a summary of the different table types. So in this particular video, we looked at managed tables. So that's this column here. So hopefully this will give you the key takeaways and characteristics of managed tables. So I hope that was useful for you and you can apply that to your workings when using Microsoft Fabric. And look out for the next video now when I will be covering external tables. Thanks for watching.